Awesome. Ranga, great to be here at the office today. Thanks for having me. I've actually heard great things about you and the company as well, because DUA is one of the very few Indian origin founder SaaS companies that has crossed a big milestone. So super excited to be here. Before I get to your introduction, tell me where we are recording from and what's this place about and what does it do?
Sure, Kishore. First of all, thank you for having me in your CMO Diaries podcast. I got to watch many of the videos, and it's an excellent resource where CMOs get to hear from each other, listen to the challenges that they face, and learn from some of the best practices. So thank you for doing this, and thank you very much for having me on your podcast series. To your question, we are today in the DUA studio. So DUA, it's headquartered in Santa Clara, and we have a beautiful studio here. Kishore was kind enough to stop by here, and we are actually recording this interview out of our own studio.
Thank you. No, thank you, Ranga, for having me. I'm sure, one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about is that companies should now start thinking like media companies in terms of putting out content themselves. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you guys have a studio in-house to record this kind of content for different purposes is pretty amazing. So I just want to say that upfront before we begin. But would love to get your introduction quickly, actually. I know that you've been in like 15 plus years of product roles before you moved to the CMO. Just a very quick 2-minute overview of what you've done before would be very helpful for the audience.
Sure, Kishore. My name is Ranga Raj Gopal, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at DUA. DUA is a data security company which helps customers secure and recover from all data risks. It's a 100% SaaS company. Like you said, it was founded in India, and it has a excellent leadership team that is driving DUA. As far as I go, I've been with DUA for a little over a year, and most of my career has been outside marketing. In fact, this is my first job in marketing, and enjoying it so far. Prior to DUA, I used to lead product management at Commvault, and before that, I've held multiple engineering and product management roles for Dell EMC, Veritas, and many other companies.
That's great, awesome. So this is a very interesting background because I've seen people move from product to marketing and step into a director of marketing role, but not a CMO role, mm-hmm. right? So tell me how that change happened. Like, what's the backstory behind it?
Well, it's a very interesting backstory. I think all of us have to keep evolving. I started out as an engineer and then moved on to product management. That was a very interesting transition as well, where you think more about not necessarily what you're building, but why you're building it.
Right.
And then when you look at what is the next step there, it's really figuring out how the world at large is going to understand the value that you bring to customers. And that's where marketing has an extremely important role to play. So one day I was just happily doing what I was doing, and Jaspreet, who is the CEO of DUA, had this very interesting offer asking if I would be interested in being the CMO for DUA. And I was completely shocked and surprised because, like you say, you're often used to hearing about roles in the area that you play in, but marketing is not something that I've played in before. That led to a lot of conversations, a lot of peer conversations as well, where I got to understand the different aspects of marketing, and it was definitely a very interesting extension of what I was already doing as a product management leader, and I felt that it would be a very interesting transition to try out. When you say try out, it feels like an experiment, but now it's been a year,
right.
So I should say that it's much more than an experiment, and I enjoy the job that I'm doing.
That's awesome, Ranga. So, one thing I was curious when I looked at your background was, I'm sure you sort of got the offer, you came to DUA, right? The first 90 days will be very critical, right? To sort of establish your sort of trust and leadership in the company. And I'm sure your folks also will be like, hey, who's Ranga? Like, what's he up to so far? And he's in marketing right now. So I'm just trying to figure out what's your first 90-day look like? How do you navigate that whole journey in the company?
Yeah, the first 90 days in any job is going to be pretty challenging and interesting, right? That's when you're at the peak of your learning curve. When you're doing this big of a transition, especially from product management to marketing, it's a even more interesting jump. I don't know what my current team was thinking at that point of time. Probably they were wondering, like, who is this person who's never ever done anything in marketing, and what is he doing here as a CMO? But I think when you transition from any role to another role, there are multiple things that you need to consider, right? Like, what is the what are the strengths that you're bringing to that particular role, and what are you going to learn as part of that role. And if there is a good alignment between those two, the 90 days, 180 days, 1 year, 5 years, everything becomes pretty simple and straightforward. That said, the first 90 days was pretty challenging because there was a lot more to marketing than I had ever realized looking outside in. And I was blessed with an extremely energetic and very positive team, so they were very eager to help me out. My peers, the other members of executive staff, were very eager to help out as well, so they made the journey much simpler than it could have been otherwise.
That's awesome, Ranga. Can you double click on a small point you made just now, that marketing looked so much more compared to what's from outside? What sort of was the interesting shock that you experienced when you sort of...
There were a lot of shocks. Maybe my team had more shocks than me, but we'll leave that for another day. So when you're running product management, of course you're working with marketing day in and day out, right? And typically you work very closely with product marketing, maybe a little bit with analyst relations. Those are the areas that come closest to product management. But you often do not get to realize that there is a marketing operations team, or that paid digital is different from organic, or that you have a web team which in turn depends on a creative team and a content team, or for that matter even that you might one day need to figure out what goes into this very studio that we are recording, right? So it's a much broader set of functions, a set of skill sets, each of which is very diverse from each other. So that understanding, familiarization and learning, it's quite a interesting learning curve.
That's awesome, Ranga. So one question, like a broad question in general that I want to sort of pick your thoughts on is, I'm sure a lot of folks when they step into a role, they wouldn't have done this before, right? It's a completely new territory, completely new role, completely new mandate, right? I've always wondered, how do you actually quickly build trust in your team, right? When your team members might know more than what you know, you step into a role. What's sort of your guidance as to how to navigate a situation like that?
Yeah, I strongly believe that you always have to be surrounded by people who know more than you in one or more areas. So that's actually a very big positive coming into a role. See, this is what I was mentioning earlier. Whenever you're moving from one role to another, there are some things that you bring with you. And if they add sufficient value to the ecosystem around you, then that's going to help you settle in much better.
Right.
And as you settle in, the trust and respect and all those things comes with it, right? Like in my case, as you mentioned in the introduction, I've been in the data protection industry for more than 2 decades. So I'm aware of the competitive ecosystem. I'm aware of what are the customer needs, what are the different aspects that go into data protection. So that's the value that I bring to the table. On the other hand, what I'm going to learn from everybody around me is what it takes to take that message out to the market. How do you think about a pipeline? How do you make sure that you're the best friend for sales and you're the best friend for products and you're that excellent bridge between R&D and GTM, right? So those are the areas that I wouldn't know. Yeah. And I feel that as long as anyone, whether they are a leader or whoever, if they're going to be very transparent and open about what they feel they can bring to the table and what they feel they need to learn from others, it creates that nice sense of synergy where there is an open, trusting environment for us to have that information transfer.
That's a great point.
Again, like I was telling you before, I was blessed with a team that was more than eager to help me out. So, for instance, I had never played with demand gen before. I had never played with partner marketing before, but all those teams were more than eager to help me learn the intricacies of those functions and make sure that we are actually steering the ship in a very effective way.
Thank you, Ranga. Appreciate the answer there. I think one thoughtful LinkedIn post you wrote recently was about the exact learnings you had when you moved from sort of product management to a marketing, that to a CMO role, right? I want to sort of go through each of those points that you mentioned. I think there are some interesting nuggets in those points. I think I'll sort of have the audience read that post, but I think there are 5 points you mentioned, right, that you sort of learned after you moved into marketing. The first one was respect the breadth, right? Let's talk about that quickly, and then I want to sort of go through all those points and sort of get your take on that one.
Sure, happy to, Kishore, and thank you for taking the time to read that LinkedIn post. So When I was considering the move
That
from
blew up, by the way, right? The LinkedIn post blew up quite a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, no, when I was considering the transition
Right.
from product management to marketing, many experts and mentors and guides in the industry were more than willing to give me more insights and help me understand what the transition is going to look like. And I felt that I needed to pass it on, because every other day I get a question from someone who's considering a transition or
Right.
who's maybe exploring that. So not that I'm the expert in it, but at least what I learned, I felt I could share. And I was explaining this to you earlier. One of the biggest things that shocked me about marketing is the breadth and how connected each of the pieces are. It's not like you have a bunch of functions that work independently and you need to manage them, but it's more each function is dependent on another, and the combination of all of those generates the best output for the team, right? So you have product marketing that works very close with product management, understands the intricacies of a new innovation that we are bringing to the table, communicates that to content marketing, which then tells the customer story around that which then goes into corporate marketing, partner marketing takes it to the channel, and behind all of this there is a machinery that runs with maps and digital and whatnot. Oh my God, that's such a beautiful orchestra. If you're able to connect all the dots, if you're able to get everybody to work towards a single priority, it becomes a beautiful experience. And that's the beauty of product management, right? My prior role, product managers, they're probably not as recognized as they should be, but product managers have this amazing job of telling the story in such a way that the entire engineering team, entire company are able to correlate with that and drive towards that particular goal. So it's pretty much that same skill set that you need to bring here, but there is a broader diversity of functions that you need to work with. So that's what I meant by respecting the breadth. If you're going to assume that you are the expert in everything, then I don't think that's really a workable option. So you need to respect the expertise that each function brings to the table and figure out how we are going to create something bigger out of each of that.
I felt that you spoke like an engineer there.
I am an engineer. I'm an engineer by DNA. So
awesome. So the next point, Ranga, is that every dollar counts, right? Which I'm sure it matters, especially right now. So your thoughts there?
I think it always matters, right? See, that's another big realization when I moved into marketing. There is a real budget that's associated with marketing, right? There's a program budget that you do not normally see with product management. And that program budget, it's a very impressive number, but when you start digging into it, there are so many pieces and parts to it, and there are so many prioritization discussions and decisions that you need to make around that, right? So understanding how each of those dollars is going to help us drive either the awareness or the demand that we want to get. Is that the most efficient spend? Is there a different way of thinking about it? In today's world of AI-powered tools, is it better to invest in something that's going to help you get to that objective, or do you need more people to do that? All of those are very important decisions, all of which comes down to a simple economical thing, right? Like, as long as you're able to associate a return on investment on every dollar that you spend, at least from your program budget, I think you're going to make the company much more profitable. And DUA is a company that's founded on great operational efficiencies. In the market, you look at different vendors taking different strategies. DUA has taken a very balanced growth strategy where we are very proud to be cash flow positive. And that's not often associated with a company which is still in a hyper growth phase
and also
which
private,
is still not public.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I think marketing has to play its role in doing that.
And the third point and fourth point, I think probably is connected, but metrics matter and learn through experiments. What is sort of your...
Actually, they're connected, but they're also kind of independent, right? So experiments are very important. If we are not going to be willing to innovate, whether it is in the product or whether it is in the marketing strategy or sales strategy, you're going to be left behind in the competition, right? So at the beginning of this conversation, you were saying how everybody needs to think like a digital company, like a content company. That itself is an experiment, right? Like, which ad is going to perform better than the other? Do it. Try it out, right? Which message is going to resonate better than others? Try it out, right? my team ran a very successful competitive displacement campaign. You just look at the DUA feed and you would figure it out. We needed to do several experiments there. Which kind of face resonates? Which kind of message resonates? Do customers care more about security, or do they care more about savings? All of those are experiments which help us in understanding the context better and making sure that we are communicating to those values which the customers want to understand from us. If we are not speaking in a way that is easy for customers to appreciate and understand, the game is lost. Right? So that's really the concept behind experiments. And what I found was marketing is super agile. Right? Again, maybe I'm speaking like an engineer, but it gives you the ability to run these experiments, learn from those experiments, because the data is so readily available. You don't need to wait for 2 years for some feature to be built out. You can do a quick experiment, learn from it, and either expand it or cut it down. So that's really the experiments thing. Metrics, again, when you look from outside, marketing feels like it's all about words, it's all about feelings. Do these colors come together properly? Is it on brand? But when you come inside, you realize that it's a very well-oiled machinery, which completely functions based on well-defined metrics. And those metrics can actually track the customer journey from the very beginning all the way till they start expanding and growing with the company. So those metrics, if we take the time to understand the correlation between them, I think it becomes a science which kind of complements the art aspects of marketing.
That's a great point. Yeah. And the last point, Ranga, is the invariant staying connected with customers, right? And this point, especially because to your earlier point, you mentioned you have 15 years plus of experience in the data space. So you understand what the customer needs look like that you can contribute inside the company. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Just like I wrote in that post, it's the invariant, right? Like if we do not put the customer first, if we do not think through the lens of customer needs, then it becomes a very boring aspect to look at. The more we can always consider the customer in everything and anything that we do, it's going to make a lot of difference in the kind of output that we generate as well. So whether you're designing a feature, you're building a roadmap, that is also driven by customer needs. Your sales structure is driven by customer needs, and marketing strategy is no different, right? It's completely driven by customer needs, how they want to hear about you, where they want to hear about you, and what are they interested about you. Everything goes into that customer first sentiment.
Awesome. Thank you, Ranga. This is one question I'm personally curious to hear your take, because I think a lot of VC funding has brought in multiple number of companies in a similar category, right? And I think right now it's a time when you have to really differentiate to sort of grow. Otherwise, it just becomes very hard to improve the ACVs and all those different metrics that come into play. And I'm sure you think about this a lot, right? Since you've been in the category for a lot of time, and as a CMO, I'm sure you are trying to figure out what's the right way to position DUA in the market. How are you thinking about differentiation in general, and sort of how are you navigating that to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of noise out there, right? And if you have to stand out from the noise, then there has to be something unique that you are bringing to your audience. In the case of DUA, we have always stood by the side of credibility, and that's how we've built the marketing machine as well around it, right? It's very easy to talk about something that's coming out like maybe a year in the future and create a beautiful experience around it, but customers have to wait for a year, and God knows what all changes during that year, right? Instead of doing that, which is what I see in the industry generally, DUA has taken the approach that we are going to talk about stuff that we've already made available to the customers, and we're going to just talk about the exact values that it brings to the table. No smoke and mirrors. So make it extremely simple and straightforward for prospects or customers to just read it, to view it, and to understand it, right? And because we're a 100% SaaS company, everything is available through free trials. So customers can try it out on their own. So if you're going to talk about something which they cannot actually see in the trial, there is an inconsistency, right? So we use it to our advantage to make sure that we are the most credible messaging out there.
That's a great point. I know that you sort of spoke about how metrics are important, every dollar counts, right? And the fact that DUA has always been an operationally efficient company, right? It's important to actually track ROI and everything you do. One thing I'm curious to hear is just the brand building aspect of it, right? Like I'm sure you also agree that when the functionalities remain the same, the perception of a brand from the outside makes a huge difference when you win deals. What's sort of your thought in terms of what kinds of areas do you want to invest from a brand perspective, and does it not have to be tracked from an ROI perspective? What's your thought?
That's a great question, and it's a question that keeps getting asked in multiple firms over and over again, right? So. Brand is extremely important. If people are not going to know what DUA stands for, then definitely they're not going to be interested in what DUA brings to the table, right? So we always have to look for innovative ways by which we are associating with the customers exactly where they have a need, so that we are able to bring the DUA value proposition to them right there. And my preference, company's preference, is that the DUA brand is associated with trust and credibility, because that's a very important value that cannot be easily gained. And in all these years running as a SaaS platform, protecting customers' data, we have earned that trust, which we want to reflect to our brand as well. To your other question on, what are the metrics around brand? There are metrics around brand. It might not directly translate into the demand metrics that we would track for, let's say, a demand generation campaign, but awareness metrics are extremely important for us to track, and we do track those metrics as well.
Got it. I think one other thing is, since you've sort of spent 15 years in product before.
You keep reminding me that I spent 15 years. I'm not worried.
No. It's a good thing. I think that this also is very relevant to it, because you would have seen what great product and marketing collaboration looks like, right? From product side, and now you're in the marketing side. Actually, what does great product and marketing collaboration look like from your perspective?
When product and marketing can come together to explain the innovation in such a way that the customers are able to immediately understand that innovation and put that innovation to use, that's what good looks like. Very often what happens is, product has a very technical, nuanced view of innovation. Marketing feels that it's too detailed, and so marketing might come up with what I would call a fluffy version.
Right.
And then customers are confused between, do I believe what I see in the data sheet, or do I believe what I see in this video? So the more we are able to bring that together to be more plain speak, to be more credible, to be more trustworthy, that's really where the synergy happens. For that, product management and product marketing, they represent literally like a hand and glove relationship. The closer they are, the closer they're able to communicate that value, the more benefit it's going to be for the rest of the GTM machinery.
So just a tactical question there. So in DUA, for example, I'm assuming the product and marketing teams sync on a weekly, bi-weekly basis just to understand what the roadmap looks like and sort of figure out what the launch plan looks like. Is it like that's one part of the puzzle, I'm assuming? Right?
Most definitely. It's almost like peer programming, except that here it's between a product manager and a product marketing. And it's not just the roadmap sync, right? It's also learning about what customers like or don't like. There's so much product telemetry, and how we can help customers understand that, hey, you're looking for something and here is where you find it. There are a lot of AI capabilities that have been introduced based on all these learnings, right? And that's one dimension of partnership, but that's not the only dimension of partnership for marketing, because the partner marketing team has to work very closely with the channel, right? Similarly, the demand gen team has to work very closely with sales. So that's why I feel that marketing is this very beautiful glue that brings together all the functions and creates something which is greater than the sum of parts.
That's good. Anything you're testing out in AI, Ranga, from a marketing standpoint? Any sort of?
We are.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there are two aspects to that, right? One, DUA as a product company is delivering a lot of AI capabilities to its customers, but we have a very active AI roadmap where internally we are figuring out all the right ways by which we can use AI to complement our capabilities.
Correct.
Right?
But from a marketing,
from a marketing perspective, the areas that we are looking at is, are there ways in which we can accelerate the demand by providing more touch points to our customers in an intelligent way? Are there ways by which we can reuse content more effectively, making it available in different form factors? So there are so many evolving, emerging areas, and AI gives a excellent way for us to scale while still keeping the efficiencies intact.
Thank you, Ranga. My sort of last question, probably like let's see. One, one or two leaders you really enjoyed working with, and what you learned from them?
Well, you put me in a tight spot there because
you can't name obviously the CEO.
and you said before DUA. So
okay.
there are so many people who have helped me
Right.
all through this journey, and who I turn to as guides and mentors, and from whom I've learned so much. That's very difficult to pinpoint one or two, but there are folks who have left a lasting impression simply because of how simply they approach complex problems and how they evolve strategy from that simplicity. One excellent leader and friend is Manoj Nair, who used to be the general manager for Metallic, which I think is now called Commvault Cloud, but the SaaS business of Commvault. He had a very simple way to think through any strategic problem, right? And his approach to messaging was more, he used to call it the 3M model. I don't know whether he invented it or he borrowed it from somewhere, but it's all around mind share, market share, and maturity, right? And when you think about that from a product company perspective, it makes a lot of sense, because sometimes there are capabilities that generate a lot of mind share. There are others which actually expand the market share, and there is a continuous evolution which helps customers from a maturity perspective, and all three are very important. If you just pivot on one versus the other, you're doing customers a disservice. So that's
it's a good framework though.
One of the many learnings that has stayed on with me. A lot of people that I admire and learn from, and when it comes to learning from people, I don't think competition comes in the way.
Right. Thank you, Ranga. My last question for the day: what's one thing that worries you about this year, and one thing that you're excited about this year?
Oh wow! What worries me about this year is pretty much the same as worries me any year, right? Like, there's so much competition,
right?
And there is so much
noise in the market, right?
Noise, truths, lies, everything that you have to contend with, right? Whether it's a truth or a lie, you need to make sure that you're providing the right view to anybody who cares to get that view, right? And that can be extremely challenging at times, and that's an area that we need to continuously keep improving in order to stand by the trust and credibility that we were talking about earlier. What excites me is the potential ahead of us, right? Like SaaS is undeniably the simplest form factor that customers can benefit from. And having spent my life, as you kept on reminding me, 15 years, 20 years actually, in software, appliance, and now SaaS, I can see that evolution of transformational simplicity that SaaS brings to customers. And I think that's a very exciting thing for us to look out for.
No, appreciate it. I'm sure you're also excited about the potential IPO in the future, but it's been a pleasure actually. I know that you've been kind enough, you and Alex have been kind enough to have me here. I sort of came to your studio and doing the session here, so appreciate you transparently sharing your thoughts and being sort of vulnerable about what is happening in your life, especially in marketing. So appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Kishore. It was great talking with you.
Thank you.